that shit, right? To fight communism.
I've heard stories.
High
High concentration around that one town in what, New Hampshire or Massachusetts? Where is it?
It's only on the East Coast. It only exists here. You know, but based on what you know about the government, it's like you put it past them. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The key to podcasting, John, is to just like reel people in with the category. Like people think they're joining a construction podcast, and then you just you take a right turn.
We're talking
the conspiracy podcast would have a higher level of audience engagement,
right?
Yeah. We're just going for likes here. That's all we're doing.
We take a poll. That's how we figure out what we're going to talk about.
It's like this is what the public wants. We gotta respond.
Well, John Riggs, we are excited to have you on the podcast. So thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you have a cold? Is that what you have?
It's like the flu, hacking up tons of stuff and just feel body aches and chills.
Is it pneumonia?
I hope not.
Dude, I got pneumonia last year. It got to a point where I was like, what is going on? 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, and I like couldn't breathe, and the doctor's like, bro, you got pneumonia. I was like, oh, okay.
That's hopefully not.
They almost gave up on Lars. They were like, sorry.
They're like, you're sick and you have red hair. It might not be worth saving.
Yeah. Dying breed. More worth it.
Dying breed.
That's right.
Daywalkers.
Well, John, I think so. We've had this podcast. We've done 20 episodes so far, and we've talked to a variety of folks about tech, about processes, and I think, in part of maybe one of our conversations, we've talked about the desire to get a perspective on what's actually happening on job sites, right? And I think if you go on LinkedIn and just run through construction LinkedIn, I think you get a very skewed picture of what is actually happening. And you might think that, maybe AI is really making an impact, and maybe tech, and all those things are maybe true. But I think one of the many things we wanted to dive into with you is what's the reality of that picture. But before we get into it, I do want to hear about your background, John. How did you get into construction? What was your path and journey?
Yeah, so my father's in construction. He works for a steel company and has for many years. I think almost before that, he worked for a general contractor as well, running more like labor and core and shell stuff before switching over to steel. So I kind of grew up around it. I'd go with him to work sometimes. I'd play in the plan room, print out things with the plotter and whatnot.
Yeah, man, toys.
And then, with that edge and being good with like math and science, there was always a little bit of a push and like that'd be a cool thing to do. But I actually kind of pivoted, rebelled a little bit and wanted to do something else, and studied a lot of different things in college, but ultimately landed back in construction through happenstance and just
roped you back in
opportunities.
Yeah.
So when I went to school, I studied a few different biology, like kind of centered things, landing in like plant genetics, as well as political science. So things like horticulture classes, botany, and then basic genetics and like biology of viruses, all sorts of different things. But really at this point, that's more like taught me how to think and like how to critical think, and same with like political science. A lot of classes on like conflict resolution and different like ways of thinking. And surprisingly, I do find myself thinking about those things, looking back, especially dealing with people for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And they do kind of echo into my daily life a lot. But with that being said, I got those degrees. When I came back, I was looking for work and kind of like taking it easy, moved back home, trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do. Because a lot of the opportunities in those fields were like very like low paying, and it was long ladder up.
And boring.
Yeah,
right?
Potentially.
Stop! Don't no, Stephen. No.
You work in a lab for a long time, and it's very rewarding work. But more on like the educational side, and
right.
There's different opportunities, and it kind of pushes you towards more advanced degrees to really get anywhere, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself, but it just really depends on what you want to do. So I took a job temporarily at a construction company that I'd worked with because during high school and college, I'd worked at the steel company that my father worked for as an all-service intern, so to speak, like everything from fire watch in the field, being a runner for the guys, going get coffee, bagels, this, that, fire watching a lot, flagging, things like that. And then working in the shop as well, cutting steel, injuring myself, and then being pulled into the inside office as time went on, and running the plan room, being a runner in the office too, delivering drawings. This is back like There were PDF drawings, of course. Like, I'm not that old, but paper was first. Paper was king up until recently, honestly. So like, that was a big part of my job. And then going on to doing estimates as I got older, and kind of running it from the sub side. Got to attend meetings and see the perspective from the sub side, and it's really funny because later on, like when I think back, it does influence how I look at things and how I talk to people, which I think is an advantage that I have, or I like to think at least.
100%.
So with that, after college, I took a job temporarily at a GC in Manhattan that I had relationship with from when I worked at the steel company. And it was just supposed to be doing some estimates and kind of getting cash in my pocket while I was looking for the right job more towards my field that I had studied. After doing that for a couple weeks and kind of finishing more work than they thought I was going to finish, because just kind of math equations, doing structural steel takeoffs and curtain wall takeoffs and stuff like that. If you're given the unit prices that you want to use, quantity surveying is pretty straightforward if you're decent with things like Plan Swift, Bluebeam, programs.
Yeah.
That isn't to say now model-based takeoffs and stuff are taken off. But back then it was all paper and Plan Swift, Thangrid, stuff like that. So I got offered a job to continue working with them because they liked what I was doing, and I jumped into a couple meetings to help regarding steel from that past experience, and then kind of grew my career from there with them. Got to touch almost every aspect of the project on those first two projects I did with them, just by virtue of being like the utility player. Brought in as one of the young guys in a relatively older office at that smaller GC. So then I would run around and I was like everybody's tech guy. So I'd help with everything, but then I got to see almost every aspect of the job, like everything from being in the foundation PM/super to running the facade inspections, and then ultimately taking over the mechanicals when we were at the startup phase. So I wasn't really leading the charge during the installation up front, but then I got to see all like the mistakes that we didn't think about, we didn't account for this or that, or just mix-ups in the documents that do happen that you don't really uncover until later. Although these days we do try to go ahead with that, and then other companies like Viatechnic with their precogs, and everybody has their slant on it now, which hopefully is moving the industry forward. I like to think that we do a good job of it at Suffolk.
Man, we got free product placement. I didn't even have to pay for that.
You already paid them. I saw them though.
So when you look at like that early, so that's a fascinating kind of from plant biologist to PM. If you were to dissect the elements, the ingredients, is that where you're going with it?
I like that reference, the dissection.
Yeah, you like that?
That's good.
So if you were to dissect really the ingredients, the makeup, the characteristics that helped you succeed along that path, there was a lot of running as a theme that I picked up from your career. But what do you think separated you that allowed you to succeed in those different roles?
Yeah, I mean, not to be corny, because I think that most people say something along these lines, but being eager to learn, and
curious.
This is going to be an oversimplification to start, but just for the point. But they give us a book and a bunch of pictures that tell us what we're supposed to do, and then you have the internet. No, so there's obviously I still learn to this day, over 10 years in now, and I have somebody that works under me, and does a lot of the submittal reviews with me or for me, talking about. But we still find things, and I'm like, I don't fully know what that is. Let me look into that. Let's ask the RFI, and it's never a learning process. So really being open to that early, and honestly, I think it helped a little bit that I didn't study mechanical engineering or a focus on construction, or industrial engineering with a focus on construction or architecture, because I was coming in and just saying I don't know. I understand math. If you tell me this needs to be this strong, or this needs to work with this because it's a chemical adhesive, it's with a couple Google searches back in the day, and now I'm sure AI can help with that as well. You can learn a lot pretty quickly, and then it's just repetition over and over again. And once you see the same patterns in multiple jobs, or even things like doing estimates and looking at jobs that you don't actually do, but keep looking at the same thing in a different way, it starts to stick.
It's funny. We had Matt Graves on Construction Yeti, and that was his exact sort of response. It's they kind of tell us what to do. I don't know what any of this means, but I have Google, and I'm just going to search, and I'm going to learn. So it's that connecting the dots around how much information now exists out there, right? And if you're a curious person, you're gonna be able to connect that dot and learn quickly. So That's fantastic. By the way, did you ever say no if anyone ever asked you for help? I feel like you just like, heck yeah, let me roll up my
Yeah,
sleeves.
no, I mean
Yes.
to my own detriment. Sometimes
Yeah, I
that's actually
figured.
been on my self performance review the last couple of years.
Say
Because
no.
time management is tough. Like that's actually
Yeah.
honestly as I go in, I'm a senior PM now, and
Yeah.
as I advance in my career, I'm realizing more and more that you really can't do it all. Especially I have a wife and kid now.
Yeah.
Um, I have a 9-month-old daughter, and time
Man,
really catches up
congrats.
with you.
Yeah. Dude.
So it's definitely take advantage of it early, especially if you have the opportunity to get in the door somewhere. If somebody
Yeah.
gives you that chance, no matter what your background is, it's really yours to use.
Yeah.
Like yeah, we do a great thing at Suffolk with our Career Star program,
Yeah.
where people do rotations in estimating, VDC, the field, and PM roles.
Brilliant.
Basically acting as a pseudo assistant super, pseudo assistant PM, and so on, and like taking the place of that project engineer phase. And they actually recruit a lot from not direct AEC disciplines, and we've had a lot of success with different people, especially business students, economics, the humanities. Like where like if you're taught how to think, essentially what we're doing is running a small business out of that trailer. Like it's a little company in of itself. If you're part of a larger company like Suffolk, hopefully you have that and the structure that they give us, which does help a long way. But a lot of construction projects are done by smaller firms, like where I used to work. And then it's a lot of day-to-day decisions that are being made, and just like ingesting a ton of information and then trying to make the best decision with that information based on the experience of the collective.
This is John might be one of the most overqualified senior project managers I think I've ever spoken to. It's fantastic.
Well, and
So,
he has a world-class background. Like, I think we
no,
need to take some tips from just how to structure a background to make sense for us. We can't get
it's
that right.
amazing.
Ours is very
No,
boring.
well, I just try to switch it up every time. That's the only thing I got. I can
Yeah.
just go to a different room, a different angle, a different
It's
overhead
never
light,
great. Yeah.
fluorescent light, boom.
We didn't find the fluorescent light bulb. But sorry, you were going to ask a question.
So John, totally appreciate the comment around like time management. Fascinating, right?
Oh yeah, it's a big journey for me, especially. I know people have that same problem, but it'll be the number one thing this year too when I review myself, like because
So what are you doing?
I want to do everything.
How do you, I mean, call it a weakness, right? We clearly know some strengths, call it a weakness, right? So how do you manage that weakness, right? So because if you, I'll just stop there. How are you managing it? What are you doing that you could share with others as a new dad, as someone that is clearly proficient? Your organization respects you. They see you as a leader, right? They want you, but they're also saying like, wait a minute, you need to manage this. So how are you doing it?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to be better about is, like I don't want to say no, but seeing where you can enable other people to do things that you're good at. So it's like I'm lucky enough to now have somebody that reports to me and a lot of lateral people that are involved with the same project. So I'm trying to offload some of those activities where I still get to have that involvement or a final check and like trusting other people. Things like I'm reluctant to say it that way because it infers that I don't trust other people, but it's a hard thing to let go of, especially if you try to do that like utility player approach, and then you're like, oh, I know how to do that. I know how to do this. Let me show you. Like I'm trying to transition more to, let me show you how you can do that. If you want me to check it the first couple times, more than willing to sit down and have a meeting with you about it, stuff like that, as well as managing other people's expectations, not necessarily pushing back on like saying no, just well, when do we actually need that? So it's like I have these other priorities. I can reprioritize what you want me to do, but this other thing would suffer. And I used to have a really hard time saying stuff like that because I feel like I was failing. Like it's like I should be able to do it, but and I was still do to an extent.
What do you appreciate? Let's put you in that person's position, right? What do you appreciate when someone shares something with you or tells you something? Like, how do you like it to be shared with you? If that makes sense.
So I mean, I try to be very like tell people that I'm working with to be very upfront with me. And generally, when put in that position, I'll just make the decision for them. I'll be like, okay, no, don't do that. Do this, and it's on me if that's the wrong decision. So like, but I had trouble initiating that with people above me throughout the last 10 or so years because I was like very hungry all the time. and it's still a very old industry. Not necessarily
Yeah.
even like everybody's 70 years old. No, but like people that grew up in New York City construction in particular, or like a lot of metropolitan East Coast cities, because I know
Yeah,
Boston
yeah, 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 yeah,
very
yeah.
similar
Oh
for
yeah, oh yeah.
my colleagues up there. There's a certain attitude that went along with it.
Hmm.
Especially people that went through the trenches at these large companies,
Hmm.
Lend-Lease, Turner,
Oh yeah.
that have been in the market for a long time, and it's just what they're used to. So people act a certain way. So it's really like bucking that culture is very tough. I think I'm seeing a big change with it,
Mm.
with a lot, especially people that came in after me, in the last like 5 years or so. Um, but it's really I'm not good at it yet. I'm really working on it. But that's like what you have to do. You have to kind of draw that line in a way that's not like I'm not going to do that. Like never not my job. That's not something that I think people should be doing, because it's
Hmm.
not your job, it's an opportunity.
Yeah. So
But have that boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on the topic of maybe time and where it goes, there was a time when we talked about tech through the lens of how it would give people their time back, and this was like there was like early contact marketing and like maybe the I don't know 2018s, and we're 7 years later. Not that it all started in 2018, but like has that happened? Do you feel like tech has enabled you to get a life back that maybe you didn't before it?
I think it's a bit of a tug of war,
Ooh.
because
Ooh.
like tools like not to do more free product placement, but like,
Yeah.
but I was recently on a call with Open Space and talking about different things that we're working on with them and
Yep.
for a product that we've used for a long time. And something that I said that that they liked, that I thought was appropriate, was like really all these things are giving us time, because it's like I don't need to go walk in the field necessarily. I still should, but if I don't have that opportunity, I can then quickly go through the
Mm.
open space and see what happened the last week and see what's different and things like that, and other tools they're working on for tracking and whatnot. All are about giving us more time.
Mm.
However, I think in the same exact time frame that all this has been happening, projects have become more complex,
Yeah.
especially in like regulatory environments, and clients are more sophisticated as well, which is good and bad if people have certain requirements. So like if there's so many people involved in all these decisions, it's fine, and like that's like you've satisfied all stakeholders, but it does create more administrative drag.
Yeah.
So compliance is a potential issue. So I feel like uh, it's also a shift between like when I was at a smaller GC and the things that we were expected to do versus a package that somebody like Suffolk sells, and like the projects that we work on. So like as things have become like getting away from certain tasks, it's almost like more tasks have come up,
Yeah.
or things that might have been like I don't want to say ignored before, but compromised on, are not being compromised on.
Yeah.
100%. Well said.
So yeah, it sounds like you guys are on the same page with it.
Yeah.
Well,
It's hard to
yeah.
like without getting like specific with examples. Like it's
No, no. Stephen, I know you want to respond to this, but it's so funny because we as humans have a tendency to solve certain problems to make it easier for ourselves, but then a lot of times we allow creep of, or we go create new problems for ourselves to then go solve, right? And so I appreciate what you said, because there are things that have gotten just incredibly amazing about the construction industry. However, like even just the building science of it, right? Like how we construct is much more complicated and much more in depth. Doesn't necessarily make it like better, right? But it just, there's a lot more stuff that we
Yeah.
have to track, that we have to manage. The skill sets needed are different. There's an incredibly larger focus on safety than there was 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So, anyway, well said. And yes, I do think, I'm passionate about like finding what those routines that we can control as a general contractor, right? We can't control, what the exterior cladding is on the building that the architect chose with the owner and things like that. But like, what are the things that we can control that are part of our daily routines as a general contractor that we can ingrain? And how can we make it easier for the person that just plugged into our organization to see our daily flow, to know who we are, to know what our DNA is, and just plug in that, day one. So.
I would also say that if there is margin to grab, it's often going to be grabbed by the commercial interests rather than the human interest, right? And this is where I think there's like this real
Interesting.
struggle, and the commercial interest historically is always going to win out. And I think that's really the big battle with AI right now is whose interest is it going to serve? Is it going to serve commercial interests, or is it going to enable individuals to become true craftsmen? But that's another story. I think back to back to the tech stack. When you interact with a new project, John, and I like someone said it's not a tech stack, it's a tech pile. At Suffolk, you guys are a bit more cleaner, and I'm sure in terms of how you approach it. But like a net new project, how much autonomy do you have to go try something new versus hey, here's a tech pile, here's a tech stack that we apply to every project?
Yeah, so it's a complicated question
Mm,
because, like, on how our contracts are set up are very low margin,
yeah,
in the sense of the liability that we have. Because even if we aren't physically putting in, $300 million worth of work in a $300 million contract, we have all that liability on that. So it's running through our contract, and we're responsible for the entire thing. We work on very small margins on that gross revenue. In almost all cases, we try to see what we can have be reimbursed by showing it's a net value to the project.
Hmm.
We have standard tools that we use on all projects at Suffolk, and that tech suite that we use, the tech stack, does get subbed in and out for certain items here and there, but we try to be pretty consistent, so we have the same approach, whether you're doing a job with us in Miami, Tampa, Sacramento, or New York, or Boston up at Mothership. Um, so there is some autonomy.
yeah,
It really depends on the first step would be how flexible the client is. So if the client is willing to work with us on something, then we can sub in whatever we need to. And then beyond that, then it gets to more of project level decisions that are tough because, like, we're talking about a lifespan of a project of 2 on the very short ends for most of the projects we do. Because we're not,
Hmm.
we don't, at least I haven't been involved in any fit out projects with Suffolk, or it's an add on to a larger project. So we're working the 2 to 4 year span. So, like, when you're talking about like project success stories, we're piloting on 20 job sites. Okay, well, to get like real success measures and metrics, it's going to take a long time. And then
yeah,
people are on jobs for a long time. So, like, we don't change all the time. We try to keep it pretty consistent. I've been with Suffolk for almost 8 years now, and there have been changes in that time. And I've been on 7 projects with jobs that I've like touched and helped out on,
hmm,
as well
Yeah.
as 3 main projects that I've been on for the entire time. And on all those projects, we've used different tech stacks. So it is a little daunting to change up on people like that. Like, I'm not somebody that would complain about it because it's like I'm usually involved in that decision when it comes to the
yeah.
project,
Hmm.
and I'm like pushing for this or that. But I do get, like, I hear feedback from people about how we like they think that's a lot of change. Meanwhile, there's a new AEC startup every 30 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
so it's very difficult because most of the projects that are done by smaller firms that aren't Suffolk.
yeah,
Like,
Hmm.
so I
It,
I'm very wary when I hear things about like how many projects a product's been used on and how successful it is and how much it's going to save me time. I'm always willing to hear people out, but it's so tough because I'm like, how long have you been doing this to know that for sure? It's like
yeah.
it's tough.
yeah. I mean, it is. I walked through a conference, like a vendor aisle, and I feel bad for you guys because like I'm tired of it, and I'm even on the vendor side, and I mean, I've got a lot of friends on the tech side of the industry, and I think a lot of them are doing really amazing things. And in fairness to them, the go to market process for a tech company is really hard in this industry, partially because of the dynamics you just mentioned,
Hmm.
but also because it's an industry that's been claimed to be very poor at adopting tech, even though a lot of the metrics don't communicate that. Go ahead, Lars.
It's I love, again, the plant scientist drops another like atomic knowledge bomb. Um, it's it's the fact that nothing we do is quick,
Yeah.
right? And for us to do, just call it, even like a small GC, 30 simultaneous projects in various stages of delivery, to then add in a new piece of tech, new process, new this, new that. Choose one job. Okay, great. It's a 2 to 4 year lifespan, or 12-month to 36-month. Great. Meanwhile, all those other projects are getting off the books and filtering through, and we got new ones. And so 3 years later, the team's sort of like, yeah, this was great. Okay, now how do we roll this out to how many active jobs throughout our organization? Like, that is hard. And as builders, I think a lot of us are really good at building, not systems integration, not seeing this three-dimensional problem of communication, data flows, and this sort of digital structure of a company. Because at the end of the day, the money is made out in the field. It's dirt, steel, right? It's concrete. It's paper plans still. Guys walking around. Maybe there's an iPad. But it is that is what is hard. And I don't know if there's an easy fix on that. There's a lot of great tech coming out there, but it's hard.
I mean,
Very
I think
sticky.
VCs are part of the problem, but I always try to take one stab at a VC at
Why?
every
Why?
episode.
Tell us why. Tell us why. I know you have. That's a strong opinion. Go.
Because I think part of it is I think there are certain categories of tech that have been overfunded because VCs at times don't fully understand all the challenges of the job site or the industry, and so they naturally orient themselves to what they understand. And hey, I can understand. 3 years ago is I understand AR VR, and so like let's throw money at it. And now I kind of understand how like an AI enabled backend could add value. So like that. Let's fund that. Having domain-based VCs like GS Futures and a few others that really understand the game and the challenges, I think are going to help. But I think maybe a question to you, John, controversial statement time. What do you think is the most overfunded, oversaturated category of construction tech right now? Like if I was going to be like, hey, I'm starting a company in this category, you'd be like, please don't.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
So I think that it's a tough question because like
It is.
you don't know what's missing until you see it. Like, otherwise I would be doing that company right now. Like, I'd be trying desperately.
Well, I'm saying the opposite though. Like yeah. Okay.
No, I'm with you. I get it. So like, I'm just prefacing what I'm going to say, which is going to be photo documentation.
Yep.
And like site capture. But then I've seen like I would have told you that like drone deploy was great, but I wasn't going to see it catching on, and now we use it a lot. So I want a big caveat on that. Where I would have been like, well, why couldn't? Because I was using a drone 7 years ago on my first job with Suffolk, and I had a little $3 app on my phone from the App Store, and it worked great. And I was just able to like sit with my senior PM at the time, and he had a drone as well, and we were using it on like a 10-acre site. So we just set up our path. We knew what we were doing. We set up still photos at the same spot all the time. We'd drive over the crane, and then we'd be able to do we were able to do a capture for cut fill analysis because like we just like understood what we were doing, and we could program it in like a very like cheaper platform. So I was like, well, this is great, but like, why would I pay this much a month? But then I see how successful it's been across the country.
Yeah.
And then even like on Suffolk jobs, not ones that I've been involved with yet, but on a bunch of jobs, like when my colleagues tell me about it, and I'm like, oh, makes sense because it just makes the platform easier. It's all in one spot, and I didn't get it before though. So,
but let's pull on that one because and I'm not familiar with that platform, but that platform or that app or that solution that you just described, is it doing anything different than you were doing 7 years ago?
Yeah, I mean it's much more like organized, and then where I would have to use like 2 or 3 different platforms, it's all in one spot.
It's all in one. So it okay, got it. So it brings more of the pain into a singular solution.
Yep. And then they were able to build on that to do a lot of other things that I wasn't doing at the time, where I would do like in a like MacGyver kind of way. So like overlaying plans onto drone images. It's like, I could figure out how to do it in Photoshop and Bluebeam, but they have it just built into their platform now.
It's fast, easy.
Yeah.
And I would also say, like, I really like Drone Deploy. And part of what I think they've done so well is they have so many domain-based experts that are feeding their insight from a product standpoint. I mean, shout out to Hayden Bradfield over at Drone Deploy. Like, he's, from a robotics standpoint, probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever interacted with on not just the platforms, but also the value they can serve the different kind of workflows in construction. So like, I think to your point, it doesn't matter about the category. It does matter how you build product in terms of understanding the problems within those workflows, right? So that's a really good point. But reality capture, a little oversaturated.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially with like there being behemoths in that space now,
Yeah.
where like they're gonna ideate off of their current platform,
Hmm.
and they have the funding and like the recurring revenue to support that. So
Yeah.
like I would think that'd be like a very hard one to break into. Granted, like we wouldn't have been talking about photogrammetry 7 years ago very much. Like it was, at least in the spaces that I ran in, it was very nascent as far as the actual use. But now that's a big thing. We use 3 different ones at Suffolk that we've tested out. Part of the open space beta that they ran for their drone pilot one. And then we X4D, and I know some other people have tested out some other ones. Maybe if you have something that can penetrate the market, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more opportunities in augmenting existing workflows, like really unlocking the efficiency that people could have. Like, so, things like punch list could still be way better. There's a lot of platforms out there that do that, but I haven't seen one that's like really pushing it. Like, there's ones that are specific toward commissioning that have a lot of traction with different engineering firms, but it's really about how you attack the market too. And I find it hard for there to be complete alignment, even on projects where I've had been afforded the ability to have comments early on, prior to MSAs being signed. It still isn't perfect because there'll be an agreement with the engineer and the architect that hired the engineer, and then the owner hired the architect and the owner hired us. But they say they're going to use this platform, but we do everything on Procore as our home base. But then like I've had to work out things where we integrate other platforms with Procore, and it gets very complicated very quick.
Yeah.
And like I say stuff like this in the meeting, and people are like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Because the same thing was happening when I was on that first job out of college, where I went from junior PM that got estimator to junior PM to PM. That was kind of like number 2 or 3 calling the shots on a $50 million hotel right out of college. My big innovation at the time was I made a SharePoint for the company using our Microsoft account that we already had.
Boom.
And then I put the Excel document for the punch list on the SharePoint so we could all edit it live.
Love that.
This is 10 years ago, but like it was like, oh wow, we can all just edit this punch list live. That's great.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I look back on it, I'm like, I have to stutter my embarrassment a little bit, but it's like the more you know, the more you see.
I love that.
But that works just
PD
a lot of things we do now, honestly. Because it's like you have one list, you can see everybody that's the last 100 versions, you can see everybody that's changed it. It's not, and then you PDF it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's right. For a record,
it does, I could definitely see punch list being something that people could capitalize on more. I know a bunch of companies we work with are working on it as like add-on different platforms, but that's one for sure. That's
so. If I was a VC and handed you a blank check, I was like, John Riggs, I want you to apply your plant biology brain to solving a construction problem with technology. Would it be that? Would it be a punch list tool? Unlimited check, unlimited money.
I mean, that'd probably be one if I had to give you like my highest likelihood of being able to make something happen in the near term, like we actually have like minimum viable product that does more or less what we say it's going to do. That's probably the route I'd go, because like I like to dabble in like AI stuff, and I was part of the working group that Suffolk set up to like get training from a few Microsoft Copilot experts, and like I've tried to make agents myself and do different things and power automate workflows and everything. But the more I learn about this stuff, the less I realize I know. Yeah. So because I'd love to say that we could get something that could automate the coordination process to some degree. That'd be like a dream. Or like being able to inject yourself early and like kind of pitching it to owners.
Yeah.
To try and get that LOD 300 drawing to really be LOD 300.
Yeah.
Because like that would like really change how we deliver projects, and that's a lot what, we do with our digital delivery We used to call it plan control. Then up with project that you guys have helped us on a project that I worked on recently. Like that's really the idea of all these like technical validation reports. So if you could really, like, there are a few companies that are trying to do this with some success. Like that'd be like the dream. But I would say I don't have the technical prowess right now to like take that check and go. But I could probably figure out like and get the right people to do like an AR enabled location enabled punch list tool that layers onto existing systems, and then be able to like, get to something that people could use.
Yeah, I like that. Just take the check, ask questions later.
That might be the better move.
But it is interesting. The ability to actually create. We talk about digital twins a lot, but like digital twins of people, right? Like creating models of people or personas. Can that enable us to actually front load constructability expertise into the design process while not making the labor challenge even harder? Like that is interesting. And like Lars and I have talked quite a bit about just all the superintendents that are kind of dropping out of the market in the next 5 years. And if we, enabled them with some kind of like limitless or like Plod device where they recorded, their daily interactions, and we could digitize their brains to some extent in a humane manner where they were incentivized somehow. And then be able to like leverage that as a model to like give access to designers that kind of constructability expertise. That was my takeaway from what you said.
Yeah, no, I mean that's something that I've actually talked about with people internally, like just like how that we could even do something like that, because there's so much unstructured data. Yeah. And like I know that's the whole idea of large language, like general purpose large language models, like being able to take that unstructured data and get something out of it. Yeah. But it's like, I have my doubts with it. Like like I said, I don't know enough about it, but I know that I've played around with ChatGPT and Copilot, Claude, which is Anthropic's Summit, a bunch, like more than I should, and it does get hallucinations. So I'd be very worried about that. And like there are tools out there like Trunk Tools is getting a lot of traction. I haven't had too much experience with them myself, but I know a lot of people at Suffolk have. I think that's like really a good goal to aim towards, but I think that's a little bit longer of a road. Yeah. And it's really about like if we can scale up data collection now, and like how do we download those people now? So like we try to do programs internally, like we have like accelerated superintendent training where general superintendents that have 20-year Suffolk guys give training on the 32 divisions, not all 32, so scale a couple, but like talk to them like what you should look for stair installations, what your checklist should be, like more than just the checklist that's uploaded to our SOP website. Like they actually go through classes with that, and that's like kind of the analog way that we've been trying to address it. So I've actually asked them to send me like the workbook that the class uses, even though I'm not in the class, because like there's some good stuff in there. And like I haven't been exposed to every type of foundation installation. I've only been on the handful of jobs I've been on. I've had caissons, piles, wood timbers, a lot. But there's other kinds. So that sort of stuff, like I think that'd be a great tool. Other one that I think low hanging fruit. I know Lars, you have something in this space, not exactly what I'm about to say, but back end office stuff is like schedule updates. Schedule updates I think are like ripe for it. Like like an agentic thing that just is a chat based, where it's like what should have happened. Okay, give me an update on what did happen. Okay, this is what. Oh, now you updated when this finished. This finished 2 days early. Should we keep the activity tied to it, or is the next activity not starting? Like, I feel like that should be something that should be able to be done now.
Yeah, I agree. Have you messed around with any of the kind of non P6 kind of alternatives, whether it's Outbuild or Planera or any of the ones?
Not personally. I know some people that have went over to work for Alice Technologies. Yeah, and they've given me a pitch deck on it before, but I've never actually put pen to paper with any of the stuff. Yeah, P6 and projects for me. But
John, how many along the schedule thread? How many of your schedules are cost loaded schedules?
Very few. In general, unless it's a contract requirement. I try to do that on the side for most of my trades, because like we have to do forecasts anyway. Right. So like I just line up the SOV with the schedule, and
Yeah,
trying to plan
assign
out
the
that.
activities and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think that's actually a good transition into one of the things when I'm talking about like BIM adoption and tech adoption in general. One of the
Yeah.
problems that I think
Man,
happens is like,
he runs the podcast for us.
Dude,
Lars.
he's nonstop.
He's my favorite guest. This guy,
He's like
John,
a
you're
Kodiak
amazing.
bear, just
Yeah.
charging, just
Yeah, I just
constantly
love
charging.
it. We don't have to do anything. We just sit back.
Nothing.
it's the Dayquil.
It's the Dayquil. He's on meds. He's on meds.
John, you just became the podcast. You could just you take over.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
Yeah, definitely.
So like expectations. So like, and this like I know Steve, you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
Where like people feel like they need to sell the world to like get in the door, and then like all you're gonna do is you're going to disappoint somebody. So like things like cost loaded schedules. Like I've had issues before where then it doesn't like exactly line up where it was going to be because like you dispute on like what that line means with the owner and when you can actually bill it. Things should like, all natural stuff to happen.
Normal.
And it's like, but we tried and we got close. But people like horseshoes and hand grenades is when almost is good enough. Like,
Amazing.
But like I think almost should be good enough a lot of times because like if you have 5 almosts and then on the 6th time you get it, like that's what we should be aiming for. But then like the number of times like that I'll get a pitch deck or like talk about it, it's like we save you 10 hours a week on average. It's like I don't know. I don't know if you will. Like those are probably hours 41 to 50.
Yeah. Well, and also as someone
61%.
who's been on the other side of that marketing conversation, it's just
it's tough for them too. Like I don't know what the right thing to say is always either.
It's tough, but it's also like the whole industry, to your point, is numb to the numbers, and I think that's where it just that style marketing doesn't work anymore. So Lars, take note. You guys, I actually don't think you guys do this.
So we have a value calculator, but it was based off personal experience.
Yeah, there you go.
Of driving down to the. So I focused on hours 1 through 40. That's where the annoying stuff is, right?
Yeah.
41 through 50 is like that's where I need you. Like that's the brain, that's the risk. But all this other stuff here, that's just drudgery, right? It's just painful, but it's totally quantifiable because it's the back and forth. It's the administrative burden in a company. Yeah.
Well, John, I was kind of waiting for you to kind of drive that segue fully and start the next segment of the podcast. But I guess I'll take back moderation.
You're getting rid of him that quick? You see what I deal with, John? It's nonstop. I mean, he's hot, he's cold, he's all over the place.
But you mentioned BIM, John. And, like you mentioned, one of the ways that we've interacted is we've worked on a project where you were on the leadership side. And I think, one of the things I appreciated about working on a job with you was you're just naturally collaborative. You see the bigger picture and you see how tech kind of integrates into creating value, but also the process, the culture, and the leadership that's required for that to happen, right? And I think when people are looking at BIM, they so often think of it as we've got a model, we start coordination, we get value, and that's often maybe not necessarily as simple as that. Where, and I say this often, but like I think Suffolk is best in class in a lot of ways, but digital delivery and kind of that whole plan and control process, I think is best in class for a variety of reasons. But where do you think maybe why Suffolk, and maybe that's a different question, BIM within the Suffolk world is looked at differently than I would say BIM inside of a lot of other GCs. Where does that maybe ethos come from, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to definitely borrow a lot of other people's words here for certain things because I think that they have distilled it down to certain things that kind of...
I did the same, it's fine.
Yeah, like save a lot of time. But on that project you were referring to, which was a high-rise in the city that we had the pleasure of working with each other on, we were lucky that the owner kind of saw the vision on it and gave us that flyer, and like how we really got them over the hump on it, getting them in, because it wasn't originally part of the original plan for that project, was the idea that like the design team makes a model to deliver a set of drawings for the authority having jurisdiction and to convey a design intent, where a CM and a builder can use a model to really do sequence the work in the field, really work out those problems in the field that you wouldn't necessarily need to have the detail needed to do that during the design phase and to deliver that set of drawings to the municipality. Like it's not where you need to go to get to that. Like, so there's like different paths and like there's models for different reasons. So I think there is a way like, and we worked a little bit on that project of like, how much do we need to recreate? How much could we copy and then just augment? And that was a conversation because it is hard to get people over the hump of like, why are you doing something twice?
Yeah.
And I even had a different opinion than certain people like on like how much you can reuse. And like, then it gets into a liability standpoint and everything, and it's tough. And those liability conversations are really a killer for this. So it really takes like buy-in up and down the chain, and then understanding that the purpose that people do stuff with is different. So the designers doing modeling is for one reason, unless a particular package was bought by the owner, and the owner has to understand what they bought from the architect and what's expected versus what might be needed for the GC to work as efficiently as possible. And those oftentimes are different things. So like really getting that conversation going and understanding that, and it is really tough. And it's project initiation is really where it has to happen. And we were lucky enough to get in there early, and there were some delays early that affected the project, but that gave us enough time to have all these conversations.
Yeah.
And the design team was really open to it on that project in particular, where they didn't see it as us saying like, oh, we think this wall should be moved here to maintain this pull clearance in the door. And then it's like, that's also on your drawings. You have a detail for it here, and it just didn't translate perfectly to the plan view on the 32nd floor. Yeah. And they were really open to it. And it let us like push the process along. And that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
And we're definitely in that transition period where I've been involved with other projects where, if it was bought, then it was bought. And if they don't want to pay us to do something that they don't feel that we need to do, then we just reflect that in how we approach the project. But we are seeing more and more projects where they are choosing to adopt that mentality.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is from a Via Technic standpoint, we work with a lot of owners as well, and what we're seeing is an increased understanding of the full life cycle value of investment in BIM. And so I think to your point about the role that they can play in setting the culture and expectations early, I'm bullish on the future there. So I normally only have a few more minutes, but I did want to hear, like, you've gone through some cycles in the industry. You've grown. You're a leader at one of the biggest and best GCs in the country. What's the advice that you would offer to your former self, your young plant biology self, heading into the industry?
Yeah. Well, once I knew where I was, the direction.
Yeah.
I mean, I think accepting like that you're not going to know everything is important too, because I was really good at it at first because I had that chip on my shoulder of a little bit of imposter syndrome, not having that direct degree correlation.
Sure.
But then, I have found myself like after I went through and became, got promoted to that PM phase, and then kind of took a half a step back when coming to Suffolk to assistant PM because it was a much bigger firm, different kind of experience. And I was able to make jumps after 2 years to a PM, then a MEP VDC PM, and then recently last year to a senior PM. And as I got later on, I did myself tend to sometimes do that, like, oh, I know what happens here, without like doing the due diligence that's necessary. Yeah. And there's always an excuse to like not look, like, oh, I have too much things going on, this and that, and you do need to rely on your experience sometimes. But there's nothing worse than like going to a meeting and being like, this is what we should do, and then there being like a contract detail that shows exactly the opposite, and it's like right there, and it's like, even if you're right, well, then you should have been RFIing it and say why you should do this detail. But it's so hard to not like be like, oh, I've seen this before, I know what to do here, this is what I did on the other one. But that's really not your job. You can add that to help and like add value, but let the designers design, you run the work, do the things where you can do something that they can't do. So I have found myself doing that, especially the last like 2-3 years, where I'm like, oh, I know what I should do here. And you need to like have the confidence to make those decisions sometimes, but I definitely say like, take a step back and rely on other people more.
Yeah, that's gold. What about advice to new dads?
Dude, I was
You're
going
in
to
the
ask
midst of
that.
it.
That was
Were
my
you really?
question.
Oh man,
Yes, I was
stole
like,
it.
give me the man behind the curtain. What
That's
does John
right.
Riggs do for fun? And talk to us about being a dad.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's definitely important to like keep the communication open with your wife, and like it's like you're both going through this thing together, but it's like completely different. Like
Yeah.
I'll never understand what it means to be breastfeeding, and
Yeah.
our baby is 100% like breastfed up until she started solids at 6 months, and now she has a combination, but
Yep.
she still reaches out to mom. Dad's like playtime, like she'll crawl around, follow me around the house, pick up
Love that.
things, try and stand up herself. But like how she treats my wife is different, and like it's hard to understand, and we definitely could have talked more, and so, like we will in the future as we plan the rest of our lives together. That's definitely
Yeah.
something that will come up. And it's I think that's really important because you're not in it alone. I mean, if you are like in a different
Yeah.
situation than I am, obviously that's different. But I'm lucky enough. My wife has stayed at home throughout Cora's whole life so far.
That's great.
I'll go back to work eventually, but uh, like this, I feel very fortunate that we're going to do that.
Yeah,
But even
absolutely.
still, it's like she's constantly on the clock.
Yeah, it's a hard job. The when I produce this episode, I'm gonna put like marriage, counseling, parenting, all those categories. We just went cross category, Lars.
Project manager.
But that is good
Project
advice, John. I have 4 kids. Lars has three. Three?
Yeah, right.
And
First day of school, my oldest is 13, eighth grade.
yeah.
Eighth grade.
And
Comes by pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think the first was the hardest because it changes your life, and obviously you're talking about that. But it was just such an amazing, like the best thing
It only
that
gets
ever
better.
happened. Yeah, it's so great.
It only gets better.
Have so many more kids, John.
Actually, that's a fact. We need more John Riggs in the world.
More John Riggs. But Lars, anything else? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, two. One,
wow.
what do you do for fun? Like, what's one of your passions outside of work?
Plant biology. Sorry, keep going.
Stop,
Yeah.
Steven.
I'm
That's
gonna go mute.
that's your passion.
I've always been a big like manga and anime guy. Like since I was
Okay.
like Toonami in the late '90s, early 2000s,
Amazing.
and carried that through all throughout. Like closeted for a long time, but after college, people changed their tune a little bit. And the other one would be like the last 2 years golf. So
Okay.
started picking up golf, and I've really tried to get out there a lot this summer. Played
Good for you.
Well done.
9-10 rounds, which is 7 more than last year. So
you picked up just in time to drop it again. Now you're having kids.
Right, with kids. Yeah, that's basically that one. Whatever. You can fit a par 3 in pretty easily. Make it work. Stick with it. All right, last question. You ready?
sure.
And I've been waiting this whole time to ask this since I found out you were plant science. Do plants feel?
So I have seen things like recently where they talk about like there have always been chemicals where they communicate with each other for different things.
Yeah.
But like back when I was studying it, and granted I was only at the undergraduate level,
Yeah.
we had a lot of stuff about I always found it interesting about how they prevent other plants from encroaching on their space. So like, you let different chemicals out of your roots, but now I know that there are studies that show that they can communicate other things as well and share nutrients across. So like I really don't know, but it sounds like there's definitely a lot of
There's
stuff.
something going on.
I'm not sure if it's full blown Avatar, but
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I love
No,
that.
I saw something about also the, just the electrical, the currents, right?
fungus especially.
And it's like you'll touch it and it'll. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on right
That's
now.
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm
Biology.
sorry. I cut a tree down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully they're
Well,
not
John,
elephants.
what's that?
Oh, the elephants never forget.
Oh,
Dude,
yes.
and that's a different one. Here we go. We're bringing it all back around.
I know,
mean,
or
that's
zoology
epi-
as well.
That's
Dude.
episode 2. We'll just dig into
Yeah,
all
we're
the
bringing
weird
John
things.
back. John Riggs is coming back, man.
Well, John, thanks again for joining us, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It was a good time.
Thank you, bud.